Hi, everybody. This is Steve Krause. I'm coming at you for English 444 about midterm. I've got a bunch of announcements and things. I have notes about all that stuff below. Let me try to hit some of the highlights here and talk about some of those content strategy stuff and things like that. Okay. First thing is that you should be about done with the CSS Zen Flower Pod peer review, and if you've got questions, concerns, etc. about that, uh, comment about that on the post that's actually underneath this post that I set up specifically for that. I want to start looking at those on Monday, so be sure to have those posted by midnight, and late projects get docked and all that kind of stuff like that. We're at midterm now, which means it's also time to start talking about the participation grade. So if you recall from looking at the syllabus, the way that that works is that sometime about now, you're going to send me an email that says, this is the grade I think I should get for participation and why. And you'll want to make some sort of argument for that. What's participation, you ask? Well, participation is everything having to do with the discussions on this website. So it doesn't include the grade for the XHTML, CSS, exercises. It doesn't include the grade for the Zenflower Pod or the social media project or any of that kind of stuff. It just includes the grade for the extent to which you've been active and involved in the discussions on this website. So send an email to me sometime this week, next week, something like that, and then I'll email you back and let you know what grade I think that you should get for participation. Okay. Now, on to the content strategy thing. So now we're getting down to business for this. Excuse me. And one of the reasons I wanted to make this short video is because I know there's been some confusion about this assignment, and whenever I've explained this to people in person, it seems to have resolved some of that confusion. So this is how I'm going to try to explain it now. We've been talking about content strategy with Halverson and to a certain extent this Reddish book and some other things in a sort of abstract sense. And in some ways, this project is kind of an abstract project. That is, we're all working together interactively, collaboratively to deal with the problem of content as it exists with the written communication website. And as I explained, I think earlier in the semester, one of the reasons I'm motivated to do this is in part because the website needs to be improved, but also in part because it seems to me that it's doing a better job of putting the horse in front of the cart. Because a lot of website design, a lot of website discussion is more about setting up a usability experience or a framework or where the colors are going to go or where things are going to go or the interaction. People talk about this with information architecture, that sort of thing. And it seems to me that we ought to be thinking about content, exactly what we're saying on these sites and things like that. The other reason in the abstract general sense, is that to me, content strategy is very much more analogous to technical communication, professional writing than some of these other things. And there's actual jobs in it. I mean, you can actually go to monster.com and other sort of job resources and do a search for content strategists and actually potentially find sort of employment. So in an abstract sense, what I'm interested in is the concept of content strategy. I'm interested in how this might professionally benefit you beyond the classroom. And I'm also interested in what can we do, and I say we meaning me as a faculty person who's invested in it, but also you as students who are invested in the writing program in different ways. What can we do to improve the written communication website? Here's the brass tacks part of the assignment. In other words, getting down to business, and this is what we need to talk about now. What that means for you in terms of this portfolio is that everybody in class needs to do somewhere between 4 and 8 different things, projects, that might be associated with content strategy for the website. Now, we've been talking about these things already. We've been talking about things like frequently asked questions. We've been talking about things like interviews with faculty, alumni, that sort of stuff. A couple people have talked about the idea of creating something on the website so that if you mouse over the title of a class, you get a little bit of pop-up screen that gives you a description of what that course is. One of the things that came up from the Reddish reading that I think would be very useful that I mentioned on the website is the idea of some mood pictures, that because we don't really have anything like that on the website. I list below here some of the things that I came up with before in terms of, and I've mentioned most of these already. So all those things represent different pieces of content that you will need to create. So the way this is going to work is you'll create between 4 and 8 different things that are some sort of content that could conceivably go onto the website. So that's what your work is in the portfolio. And then you'll write a reflective essay at the end of the term about that process of what choices you made and how that process of coming up with content worked. Hopefully that makes a little sense. Now I say between 4 and 8 mainly because it depends on what it is that you decide to do. If you decide to work on just frequently asked questions for the undergraduate program, which would be useful because we don't have any frequently asked questions sheet for the undergraduate program yet, then it seems to me that we're talking about some fairly short pieces of writing, so I would want you to do more like 8. If you decided that you wanted to do some interviews with past alumni, and I can try to get some emails to people who are interested in that kind of stuff. If you're interested in some email or interviews with past alumni about what the written communication major has meant to them, that might entail some more work in terms of hunting them down, interviewing them, all that kind of business. So that might be closer to 4. If you want to do some revision of some of the content that's on the site right now, because you can make a pretty good argument that the way that the graduate program and undergraduate program as it exists is described isn't as clear as it could be, that too might represent more in terms of that 4 angle. So it kind of depends on how complex the project, the components, the pieces of content that you're trying to develop actually are, and it kind of depends on who you're working with and collaboration, things like that. And again, some of these things may be collaborative activities. For example, suppose you wanted to develop some video of, maybe take video of classes that are happening to put that up on a website, or video of alumni or faculty talking about what it means to study writing or something like that. That may be complex to the point where it requires collaboration between a couple of different people to do the videoing, editing, writing, all that kind of stuff like that. So I'm just trying to throw that out there in terms of about 4 or 8 different things. I'm being very careful also to avoid describing length, because something just because something's say 1,000 words long doesn't mean that it's somehow more complicated than something that's say 200 words long. And that's particularly true with web content, because as we've been reading about, less is usually more, and oftentimes it's more difficult to get something that's clear and usable with less words than it is something that's with more words. So hopefully that kind of makes a certain amount of sense. So here's how this works now. Underneath all the notes and stuff here, I've set up a Google Doc. There's a link to it there. I'm going to try to embed it into the page here. And what I need everybody in the class to do is, in the next couple of days, starting today, over the weekend's fine, maybe trailing into Monday or Tuesday or so, everybody needs to sign up for between 4 and 8 different things. And those are the pieces of content that you are at least initially going to be working on for the content portfolio assignment. Okay? Everybody needs to sign up for this. If you don't sign up for this, then I'm going to take it as you've decided that you're not going to engage in the assignment, and that would be bad, because then you couldn't pass the course. So everybody needs to sign up for between 4 and 8 things. We got it? Okay, good. I think that's it for now. Obviously, I hope you have some questions and thoughts and are ready to sign up for some stuff. The dog is barking downstairs. But anyways, hopefully that makes some sense. And ask questions, and I'll see you online.